You don't bring Paul into your team or organization unless you're looking to inspire greater confidence in your leadership, in your team, in your culture, in yourself. Like that's ultimately the spirit that I attack each day with. But that doesn't mean that I'm perfect in that area. It just means, like, to use a sports analogy, what I've committed to and the way that I've constructed and designed my life is I don't have losing streaks. Okay. Yep. I lose. That means we had a bad day, but don't let a bad day become a bad week. That's a streak. Don't let a bad week become a bad month. That's a really long streak. And God forbid, let's not have a horrible year.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the WorkHappy podcast, where we bring guests that inspire people how to work happy, how to be our best version we can be. And this week is no different. Our guest today is a speaker, a coach, author, podcaster, 49er fan, and my good friend. Welcome, Paul Epstein. How are you, buddy?
Hey, Greg. I'm fired up to be here, brother.
Yeah, no, it's good. And you are the first person on the WorkHappy podcast to be a return guest. So obviously you brought a lot of value and people, boom, right there. There you go. So, but no, thanks for being on. And I really appreciate it. I've read your book. I have it, Power Playing Offense. And as you can tell, it's dog-eared. There's markers. It's highlighted. But what a great book. But I just kind of wanted to dive in, and I know you're always a positive guy, and probably like me, you have some of those days where you're like, oh boy, how did you get into what you're doing now? Because I know you're a former NFL and an NBA executive. I worked in the NHL and the MLB, and at the time I thought it was my dream job. You're in sports, but that did get old. And now I found later in life through the different jobs I've had that my purpose and my passion is making people happy. So tell us a little bit your backstory and where you are now, how you got into it, and what's in the future, what's coming up.
Sure. So like you said, I hung out in the NFL and NBA for 15 years, and it was an absolute magic carpet ride. I was a total kid in a candy store. And if folks go back to the first time that I was on your WorkHappy podcast, they can hear a lot in more color of what I'm about to describe. But bottom line, there was a leadership offsite retreat when I was at the San Francisco 49ers that fundamentally changed my life. I walked away. This is back in 2016 from a 2-day experience. I got crystal clear in the world of self-discovery. I knew my why, I knew my core values. And most importantly, because those can often just be empty words on the wall, like I put them in more of the sugar high bucket if you don't choose to act on them. And so that's where my obsession came. My obsession came with not so much about the words, but how do I apply them? How do I implement them? How do I incorporate them so that I can level up, so that I can work happier? So point blank, so I can just be a happier, holistic person. And with work being such a massive part of who I am and why I serve, and we can double click on those things, I knew that these couldn't just stop at words on the wall. And so you could hear, I mean, that's 2016. Here we are 7-ish years later, and I'm still, you hear in my voice, the passion that I have for this topic, because when something changes your life, it feels selfish to keep it to yourself. And so what happens is I go back in the 49ers front office and I just water cooler buzz it. I just let it out from the top of a soapbox, whoever would listen to me, about, hey guys, hey folks, here's what happened at this retreat. And then as folks are gathering, I just thought it was a cool story to share. But then what it leads to is the following day, one person, just one, came up to me and said, hey, Paul, that thing you did at the retreat, you think you could help me find my why? And then the next day, one more person. One led to 2, led to 5, led to 10, led to nearly 50 people at the 49ers. Solely, it started as business, then a couple of coaches, then a few players, and even HR eventually hits me up and says, hey, Paul, we've heard about what you're doing. And at first I thought I was in trouble and I was being called into the principal's office. But no, actually what they wanted to talk about was, hey, look, we're not going to force this on people, but we think it's awesome. Do you think you could do this and incorporate it as a part of our recruiting and onboarding programs on an opt-in basis? And I said, absolutely. So that's what led to me being coined as the why coach of the San Francisco 49ers. It was never in a media guide. It was just how I was internally known because of that obsession that I had. And so you ask me why I do what I do now. Well, eventually, this discovery of leaning into what started as a passion project, and then my passion for my passion project overtook my love for my day job. That's what led to the Jerry Maguire leap from sports. I never wanted to leave sports. I never thought I was going to leave sports. If I don't find my why and values and I don't go to that retreat, I'm probably still in sports. Yeah. And so just to share, I know we're here on the Work Happy podcast. I believe that culture is the most important thing of any organization. And the 49ers, point blank, were the best culture that I had ever worked for. I didn't run away from anything. I just found something in life that I was more inspired to run toward than where I was. And that's what led to the leap. And here I am writing books, speaking all over the world. COVID was an absolute disruptor in every single way imaginable, but I'm still here. And I'll leave you with this thought, and I want folks to really lean into this. Oftentimes, when we're in the middle of a storm, there's a tragedy, there's a crisis, adversity just slaps us upside the head. It's so easy to either A, gain a victim mentality. It's so easy to point fingers. It's so easy to blame the external circumstances. And sometimes we feel sorry for ourselves. And trust me, there were a lot of folks in my space that you take away stages, you take away impact, you take away economics. Like a lot of us didn't make money for a year, year and a half. Think about that. And the reason I bring this up is if there was a millisecond during the pandemic that I had any regret for joining this space of entrepreneurship 2.5 months before a pandemic and not knowing what was right around the corner. And I think this is important because the easy button would have been to go back, whether to sports or to something more safe and stable and secure. But I kid you not, Greg, there was not a moment of regret. There was not a moment of indecision. There was not a moment that I questioned anything. If anything, my conviction just got that much stronger. But it's because I built it on the foundation of my why and my values. I found a way to tie our decisions and actions to those core pieces of who we are and why we do what we do. And if somebody listening in can attach their decisions and actions to who they are at their core, that's how you get through turbulence. And I've always said purpose is the cornerstone of resilience. Purpose is the reason you're going to stay on the treadmill, especially on the days you want to get off. How's that for an intro, Greg? We good?
I love it. It's great. And I love your purpose, and we're friends, and I can see that when I talk to you, when I get texts from you, I can see it with your family and your baby and just everything. I love that. Now, when you said it was about 2.5 months before COVID hit, was there a defining moment? I know you went on this retreat and you're like, this is what I meant to do. What was it like or was there a certain time where you decided this is it, I got to make the jump? What was your confidence like before and after going into COVID? Because I know for me, sometimes like you come off a stage and there's 800 people and you're talking to people, that's as high as my confidence gets. But then there can be a week or two of sitting in my office, right? And my confidence is like, am I doing the right thing? How do I get back to those highs so it's not high, low, it's more, more steady?
That's a great question. And look, one of my main things, the promise that I make, whether from stage or off stage, I promise confidence. You don't bring Paul into your team or organization unless you're looking to inspire greater confidence in your leadership, in your team, in your culture, in yourself. Like that's ultimately the spirit that I attack each day with. But that doesn't mean that I'm perfect in that area. It just means, like, to use a sports analogy, what I've committed to and the way that I've constructed and designed my life is I don't have losing streaks. Okay. I lose. That means we had a bad day, but don't let a bad day become a bad week. That's a streak. Don't let a bad week become a bad month. That's a really long streak. And God forbid, let's not have a horrible year. That's worse than a streak. And so I think when we can be hyper aware, I believe there's a couple of key traits that I've seen from people that not only achieve success, but that also feel significance in life. And the three are awareness, ownership, and intention. Awareness, ownership, intention. And so those three things, I am aware of self, I'm aware of others, I'm aware of the situation. That's the EQ game. And also dipped into that is how well you can manage your emotions. The awareness trifecta and emotional management is the key to dominating EQ. Then ownership is easy to own the good. Of course, I want to tell you about the top 1% of my life and filter it and put it on Instagram. Cool. I own that. But what about the other 99% of life? The part that I don't publicize. I got to own that too. I got to own my mistakes. I got to own my failures, AKA learning lessons. I got to own all of that. The bad decisions I've made in the past. I made horrible decisions. I just finished writing a book. I know we'll get to this. I just finished writing a book called Better Decisions Faster. You know how many worse, slower decisions I've made in my life? And so sometimes we need some of that pain so that we can emerge from it. And then the last one, intention. Are we intentional in how we make decisions and how we take actions? Intentionality. Are we just floating through life? Are we living on default, or are we living on purpose with purpose? And that's really this differentiator. And so, you know, you asked me how, whether COVID related or not, how we can step in each day with confidence. I would say this. One is mastery of the three things that I just said: awareness, ownership, and intention. So we just double clicked on those. And then the other part is, because all of us are human beings that are very flawed, very imperfect, and myself included. And so we need habits, we need rituals, we need practices, we need exercises that get us back to our equilibrium where we can be more healthy minded, right? Because I think health, to me, everyone thinks of physical. And in the last couple of years, thank goodness, we're finally talking about mental health. We're talking about emotional health. Some people go the route of spiritual health. Regardless, it's holistic health. And so how we can tap back into our healthiest version of ourselves is we got to have some routines. So one example is journaling. And everyone's going to tell you to journal gratitude, which I fully subscribe to. Now, that's not unique. I'm not the first person to say that. But the reason I'm going to tell folks that why it's effective, because I did not listen to the first 50 people that told me to journal. And then there was just magically this, I was at a HR conference circa 2018, 19. Ariana Huffington comes out to speak. She starts talking about sleeping, and we all know the work that she's been doing there as far as how much you sleep and the quality of your sleep. And it wasn't even about that it really hit my heart. It was this, she was person number 51, if you will, to tell me to journal. And it was just right place, right time. I was ready to hear on it. I was ready to act on it. And so the reason gratitude is so powerful is it's impossible to feel helpless when you're helpful. And so there's this attitude of service and of contribution. And so when you're gratitude, when you start your day to focus on what's right, it's impossible to simultaneously be thinking about what's wrong. But we don't have practices to ask ourselves what's right. So gratitude and journaling is one of those. Here's a tip that I believe can get us to a better place. Journal something that you're excited about every morning. Here's the practice. Sit down in your journaling chair. Look at your calendar for the day and ask yourself, what's one thing that I'm excited to do today? And inevitably, here's what's probably going to happen for 90+% of us, because it happened to me for sure the first time. You look at your calendar and you're like, nothing. you look at your calendar, you're like, man, there is just nothing here that excites me. So where I'm going with this is there's a little bit of pain in that. There's a little bit of like sadness in that. And you sit with it and you're like, that sucks. Today, nothing excites me. And here's the rule. The next morning, you come back to that same journaling chair and you look at your calendar and you ask yourself, what's one thing that excites me? And for 80+% of folks, still nothing excites you. But here's the kicker. The rule is don't get out of your journaling chair until you put something on the calendar that does excite you.
Oh,
So at a
love it.
minimum, every other day you're doing something that excites you. And that excitement breeds curiosity. Curiosity breeds passion. You flex with consistency on curiosity and passion. You flex those muscles, you will find purpose in every day because there is excitement and positive energy in every day. But I needed a journaling practice to create a rule. And 50% will turn into 60, 70, 80, 90. I'm damn near 100 now of days that I'm excited, but it started with an intentional journaling exercise because I refused to leave my journaling chair until I put something on the calendar that would excite me.
I love that. That's absolutely amazing because I've heard it over and over again. Journaling, you have to do it. Do you write it out? Like, are you on the computer or are you pen to paper kind of guy for that?
For that, pen to paper.
Yeah.
I like old school. I think we're a little bit more creative, and it's short form. Like if it was a journaling paragraph, page, whatever, I just think brevity is important because it's supposed to get a little sloppy. And so I think the more casual you can keep it, you're probably going to be a little bit more comfortable in your own skin doing it.
Yeah, and you don't get annoyed by Grammarly popping up all the time.
That's for sure.
No, and I started doing that during the pandemic. I was listening to a podcast and it hit me and said journaling, and so I started doing that. And after 2 weeks, and I love your point about put something on your journal or on your calendar that makes you excited, because I was doing it and I found out after a couple of weeks I was thankful for my job, I was thankful for my family, and then one morning, I don't know where it came to me, but I said I should start doing a gratitude text, and I do that every morning. And it started with my brother. I sent him a quick note and said, hey, I don't know if you remember this, but when I was out in Asia for a year teaching English as a second language, you sent me a bunch of books, John Grisham and Tom Clancy. I started to read and I fell in love with reading. And now I've read your book, and a lot of the people that I interview have books. I read them. I try and get through a book or two a month. And I just said, hey, you're the person who got me into reading, and I'm a better person because I read and I enjoy knowledge. And I sent that text to him. I felt so good just sending a short little text. And at the end, I said, I appreciate you. And not 5 minutes later, he wrote me back. He goes, I had no idea. He goes, you totally made my week. And so from here on, every morning I scroll through my phone and send a gratitude text. And it's been amazing. I get text back and I take a screenshot and I put it in my happy folder. So I do that consistently, but tomorrow morning I will start journaling because it's so important.
Yeah. And by the way, okay, disclosing this if you are, but I've received some of your morning gratitude texts, and I got to tell you, it's awesome. So for anybody listening that might be thinking about, well, whether it's journaling or sending a text message, it might sound like work. It might sound like a chore. It might sound like time. And you might think you're too busy or so busy or whatever. And I'm just here to tell you, I'm receiving Greg's text and I know how busy he is. And in the moment, I feel special. I feel like I matter. I feel like I can enter the day with more positivity and passion because I know I have better people, better friendships, better relationships in my life because of people like Greg. And if he didn't take that 15-second or 30-second time out, then I wouldn't feel like I matter as much. I wouldn't feel as special as I do. And because Greg sends me that one small text in the morning, I might go help 5, 10, 20 more people that day. So think about the smallest act you can do can have a ripple effect that you may never know about. And it's good for the world. And people often think, oh, changing the world sounds too big. If you think you need to change the world, it sounds massive. But if you believe that you change the world one life at a time and one person at a time, one decision at a time and one action at a time, that's how we win on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. But it all starts with that intention. So that's how we not only live happy, we work happy, we are happy.
Wow, thank you. That's cool. And it makes me even happier and want to do even more of those, right? I guess the first time I sent it to my brother, I was like, well, I'll feel better if I send it to him. But hearing his text back and your kind words, I feel even better than I felt when I sent those texts or when I send them. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll incorporate your journaling, and you can incorporate the gratitude text. Fair
I
trade.
love it. Yeah, fair trade.
Cool. But hey, before we wrap up here, Paul, what's next and what's new coming down the pipe?
Yes, I mentioned earlier, hot off the press, and in the next couple weeks, I'll be sending my publisher will be sending my second book, fully polished, I's dotted, T's crossed, to the printer. And so between Q2 and Q3 of this calendar year of 2023, we will be in a world of making better decisions faster. So the second book is soon to be hot off the press, and I couldn't be more fired up because I over time and over the years, you're holding the power of playing offense, Greg. I always got asked by people, whether friends, family, clients, you name it, what's the number one differentiator, the number one separator of those that play offense versus those that play defense? And instead of just giving my opinion, because I certainly had that, I went deep into this personal and professional development growth laboratory. Like I went in the podcast, I went in my consulting practice, I went in my coaching practice. I started asking whoever would listen. And I started to really drill in on these themes of offense versus defense from a mindset and performance perspective. And this word of intention kept coming up. And within intention, these themes of decisions and actions kept coming up. So highly decisive and very comfortable taking imperfect action. I don't need all the information in order to move forward because I will be better if I continue to move forward versus getting frozen and stuck and paralyzed at these stress-inducing forks in the road. So that's kind of the big spirit of what I was on to. And then I said, well, hold on here. Whether I take action or not is a decision in and of itself. So the lowest common denominator is decision making. And then we find that the worst possible decision, which we all struggle with, is indecision. So I'm writing a book called Better Decisions Faster, not just to be better and go faster and win time back, but I'm also doing it because fear and stress and anxiety are real things. We can't work happy if we pretend to ignore those things. So how do we create a world where instead of getting paralyzed and frozen at those forks in the road, what if we enter these decisions with clarity, with confidence, with conviction, and ultimately with courage? But it starts with clarity and confidence. And so I had to write a playbook for something that is viewed as very stressful and make it very simple to understand. My goal is for decision-making after you read this so you can attack with ease and peace of mind, knowing that you made the best call. And through something that I call the head, heart, hands equation, which I'll share now, this is how we go faster. So essentially, head is your mindset. Heart is your authenticity. Hands are action. So in order to know whether to take action or not, there's two checkpoints, your head and your heart. And if they are both on board, head thinks it's a great idea, heart feels it's a great idea, green light, move forward with action. When neither your head nor your heart is on board, red light, don't do it. Stop doing it. Do a 180, do the U-turn. You know what to do. So greens and reds, once you're aware of them, you start to populate your work and your business and your career and your life with more greens. And then also, now that you're aware, stop running reds, right? Like green and red are just an awareness game. You want more of one and you need to stop doing the other. And thanks to this book and all the stuff around it, we now have awareness. But what I found, Greg, is that there's a messy middle of yellow, where only either your head or your heart is on board. So I'm writing the playbook, A, to fill your life and work with more greens, B, stop running reds, and C, now you have a playbook to navigate that messy, messy middle of yellow. And I'll tell you, as an adult here in the US, fun fact, this is going to be a mic drop for you. Today, Greg, you, me, every single person listening in, each one of us today, as a US adult, is going to make 35,000 decisions. 35,000. I found this in the research while writing the book. 35,000 decisions a day is what you will do. Okay.
Wow.
So most of those are on autopilot. Got it. Turn left in the driveway. Hey, brush your teeth. Like,
Tell your
there's
wife you
stuff
love
that's
her.
just autopilot. Exactly right.
Yeah.
There's autopilot decisions, which is a big quantity. Then there's this middle ground of moment to moment. What's my mindset? What's my energy? What's my attitude? What's my effort? So that's that middle zone. And then there's what I call MVDs, like sports has MVPs, most valuable players. MVDs are most valuable decisions. And those are those less frequent, but highly critical things that can dictate the difference from a business that booms or busts, a career that takes off versus flounders, happiness versus hopelessness. MVDs, what relationships we're in, what ladder we choose to climb, what strategy we choose to take. Like, these things can have massive implications. So rather than get paralyzed and be like, oh my God, Paul, you're stressing me out just by talking about this. That's why I'm writing the playbook. I want people to get comfortable with decisions, because now they're clear, they're confident. And if they check in with their head and their heart, they're going to know exactly how to attack each day to make better decisions faster.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely amazing, and I'll be the first to buy it. And like I said, I read your first one, and I've got a signed copy, so that's never
there you
going
go.
on
Look at that
never
writing.
on eBay,
That's my
this one.
doctor's writing.
Hey, just before we wrap up here, 3 rapid fire questions. They're pretty easy. You ready for this? 1 word or a sentence?
Got it.
When are you the happiest?
When I'm with my family.
I figured. Number 2, you and I are both lovers of wine. What is your favorite varietal?
Oh, 1 sentence? You're not going to give me like 10 pages here? Okay.
I got an hour.
I'm a big Pinot guy. So as much as I would go Sonoma over Napa based on that, I also love, Oregon, Willamette, like we're rocking and rolling. And also, a merge of my question, rapid fire 1 and 2. You asked me where I'm happiest, and I said with family. Where would I want to be with my family? Is in Italy. Why? Because I love the wines, I love the culture, I love everything about it. So I'm kind of taking your 2 questions and blowing it up to say, love family, love wine, love Italy. Let's go.
Perfect. Last question. Other than what you are doing now, what was your best job? Or your happiest job?
Happiest job. Being the Y coach at the Niners, because without that, then I'm not touching millions of lives like I am right now.
Awesome. Hey, I appreciate you so much. The friendship, the mentorship, always willing to help out a rookie, if you will. I feel like you're you're a vet on the team. So I appreciate it. 1 last quick question. Where is the best place for people to reach you? They're on the treadmill, they're in the car, or they're cooking dinner, and they're listening. Where can they reach out to you and going, where can I get a hold of Paul? Where can I get his book?
Absolutely. Everything is on my website, paulepsteinspeaks.com. That's EPSTEIN. I'm sure we'll put it in the show notes, but paulepsteinspeaks.com. Anything and everything you'd ever want to learn, know, buy, anything, subscribe to, it's all there.
Awesome. Thanks again, my friend. I appreciate you, and I just absolutely love what you're doing, changing one life at a time and changing the world. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, brother.